Tone in academic writing is a term borrowed from music. In music, tone relates to the setting of the instrument so as to create a certain feeling or mood, and it's pretty similar for writing. You can see that sometimes things might be written in a light-hearted or informal tone, but you can also see that in academic writing, the tone of the language used is more formal. This distinction is important for effective communication and in building an appropriate professional relationship with the academic reader. Research has shown that teachers and tutors are particularly critical of student writing that does not conform to an academic tone. So it's really important to write appropriately for your intended academic audience. In order to maintain a good academic tone, there are a few key things to avoid. First, it's a good idea to avoid making very broad generalizations about the topic. For example, parents asking their children to pay rent is always wrong. It might well always be wrong, but we don't want to say it like that. Another tip is to avoid using sweeping adjectives. For example, the findings from previous research are obviously biased in favor of older people. A further tip is to avoid the use of overly emotional language. For example, "Oh, it's just heartbreaking to see the effects of this disease." Finally, another good tip is to avoid the use of inflammatory statements. For example, "Smith's paper was terrible and he doesn't deserve to call himself a researcher." Let's take a look at an example of something written in an informal tone, and then take a look at how it can be improved to a more academic tone. "Yo, when I got my students to think science was wicked cool, their test scores went through the roof. When I asked for their spin on the improvement, they just said the test felt like a piece of cake." Now here's the same information, but expressed in a more academic tone. "When I was able to engage my students and get them interested in science, their test scores improved significantly. I asked a few students why they thought the scores had improved, and they admitted that the test seemed much easier." The activities contained in this module will help you to recognize the language features involved in maintaining a formal academic tone in your academic writing, so as to meet the expectations of academic readers.